Stormborn by Black K. Cat. Chapter 26, Fourth Movement. Lost Sun's Theme. Stringendo. Theme. A melodic or sometimes harmonic idea presented in musical form. Stringendo. Tightening. Narrowing. Played with a pressing forward or acceleration of the tempo. There's barely half a second of silence before movement overtakes the square. Tsunade releases Naruto from a second hug, her spine drawing up straight like a string's been pulled, and steps away. Tenzo, she calls, and in a blur of gray and black, an Anbu is kneeling beside her. Report! Naruto doesn't look at the Anbu, though. He turns his eyes to Karin, who has dropped to the ground and closed her eyes. Gin is hovering over her, twin Deo swords in hand, and expression cautious, but he steps back as Naruto strides forward. Karin? Naruto asks softly, falling to one knee beside the red-headed woman.
6 from the north, she says instantly. 2 more in the east on a very large force approaching from the west. The 6, they all have the same chakra. Exactly the same. As if they're all one person. Naruto finishes grimly, rising to his feet. And Naruto had been hoping beyond all rationality that the group would hold off, would give them a month's reprieve during the Chunin exams, but apparently that was a foolish wish. There are worse places and times that Akatsuki could have come upon them, but honestly, Naruto can't think of many. 4 of the remaining 7 Jinchuriki all gathered in one village, together with 4 Kages and the majority of each village's genin. It's hardly a desirable battlefield, so their odds could certainly be worse. Karin glances up at him, gone pale behind her glasses and loose fall of hair. The group to the west is large, but they're the same way. Weaker, definitely, but they feel like clones of one of the pair currently in the east, and they're closing on the village. 500, maybe more. I think it's Conan leading them. Naruto closes his eyes, drawing up and discarding strategies with all the speed his mind possesses, honed over 2 lives as a Kage. 2 together, one like the clones. Probably Madara and Zetsu, he murmurs. Those must be the white Zetsu clones Orochimaru mentioned, but I thought he said they needed the power of the remaining Biju to finish them. Apparently he was mistaken, Haku murmurs, taking his place at Naruto's side. Or the power of 2 Biju was sufficient for 500 clones. The village? Evacuate the civilians, Tsunade orders, her voice rising like a whip crack over the square. Hyuga, take as many Anbu teams as can be spared and reinforce the western wall. Hagane, rally the elite Chunin and back them up. Kamizuki, take the rest of the Chunin and Genin and start moving people into the caves. Shukaku, the Jonin, take them west, Naruto interrupts, looking around at his shinobi all poised and waiting. We'll help. Gaara, Fu, you have pain. Try to stall his paths as long as possible. Utakata, take Konan. Kodo, you're his backup. Gaara steps away from his siblings with a silent nod, sand hissing out to form a disc beneath his feet. He arches a brow at Fu, who grins viciously and leaps into the air, beetle wings shimmering into existence behind her as she rises, and then salutes. A chance to punch out the freaks who've been making our lives miserable? Our pleasure, Uzukage-sama, she says brightly, and then takes off in a blur with Gaara right behind her. The snap of a book closing draws Naruto's eyes, and he meets Kakashi's long stare with surprise, even as his old teacher says politely, Hokage-sama, if you'll allow it, I think I would be best heading north as well. Tsunade hesitates for a bare moment, clearly weighing the options, and then nods. Tenzo, go with him, she orders, waving the Anbu off, and both men bow and then dart away. As they vanish among the buildings, Koto hums and slings her heavy flail over one shoulder, tossing her long gray ponytail free of the thick chain. You and me, Utakata-san, she says evenly, though her dark eyes are wary. Care to lead the way? Of course, Okami-san, Utakata answered, drawing his pipe from his sleeve. A moment later, a whirl of bubbles surrounds them and lifts them into the air, headed towards where screams are already rising. Hopefully they'll make it in time. Hopefully anyone will. But there's no time, and Naruto hates this. Hates the way his blood is pounding and his head is spinning with, what if I give them the wrong orders? What if they're not strong enough? What if they die? But he doesn't have the luxury of doubt right now. He takes a breath, steels himself for a very brief and dirty argument, and looks back at Haku, who's watching him narrowly. The hospital, he says, and could just see Haku's hackles going up. Haku, that's an order. They're going to need all the medics they could get. Teams 1, 2, 4, and 6. You're with him. Each squad, find a medic team and protect them. Go! Because he knows. Because even if he mothers, he still trusts Naruto to a degree that Naruto has never quite understood. Haku gives him a long, nearly desperate look, but goes without another word. The group has shrunk almost to nothing now, and Naruto looks between Gin and Karin, both family in blood as well as by choice, both waiting for their orders. He doesn't want to give them, because there's a screaming in the back of his head that sounds very much like Uzushio, like grief and pain, and blood pooling in the gutters as a kunai slits his throat, but he pushes it back, shoves it down, and summons up his best smile for them. Karin, get somewhere central and find some tuning to guard you and run messages. I want you to keep your eyes on the battle and watch the flow. Don't let them take us by surprise. A throat clears, and Shikamaru reaches in to offer Guardian a hand. I'll take it to my father, he offers. He's the chief strategist. A sensor with a range like hers will be invaluable. Karin flushes dull red, but takes the hand and lets Shikamaru pull her to her feet. Don't do anything stupid, Naruto, she warns sharply, adjusting her glasses, and then turns and stalks away before he can respond, with a roll of his eyes and a mutter of, troublesome woman. Shikamaru follows, though his pace is far quicker than his usual lazy stroll. Uzukake-sama? Gin asks quietly. Naruto turns to find the tall, muscular jonin all but hovering over him. He slaps his smile back on and says with all the cheer he can muster, Sorry, Gin, I'm sending you back to Uzushio. Put the village on alert, find Roshi, and have Anzu gather as many jonin and Anbu teams as possible to send through. Roshi can reopen the seal for you. I get the feeling we're going to need all the reinforcements we can find. The man looks far from happy, but he nods, remaining in the center of the seal as Naruto takes 3 steps back, pulling Sasuke with him. A few drops of blood and the seal glows again, hiding Gin completely. When the light clears, he's gone. With a whirl of auburn hair and blue cloth, Mei drops from the roof of one of the surrounding buildings and strides across the square, marching right up to stand with Tsunade. My jonin will help thin that army some, she said, cracking her knuckles as a bloodthirsty smile curls her lips. Naruto has wondered before how a woman was able to pull the bloody mist back up from its descent to savagery without getting assassinated within the first week. But apparently the answer is that she's terrifying. Got something fun in mind for the 2 of us, Tsunade-sama? The 3 of us, a voice puts in sharply as Tamari joins them, tossing her traditional robes to the side without care as she shoulders her huge battle fan. Her glare dares either of the older woman to comment. Mei just grins. That a girl! She laughs. Finally, the female Kage equal the number of male Kage. It's time we show them just how we earned our hats, don't you think? Tsunade smiles despite herself, letting her own robes fall to the side, then straightens her green Haiori and flexing her fingers. Good idea, she agrees, and turns her head towards the army of White Zetsu. If those sorry excuse for ninja get into my village, I'm going to be very unhappy. Before Kage against 300 clones sounds like good odds to me. 3 Kage. Naruto corrects, drawing the scroll containing Saji from his obi and unsealing the Najinato in a whirl of smoke. He meets Tsunade's startled eyes steadily. Madara is the one orchestrating this whole thing. If I take him out, Akatsuki is leaderless. A hand closes around his elbow, firm and unyielding, and Naruto half turns to find Sasuke right beside him, expression set into impassibly stubborn lines. He bites out. Madara is an Uchiha. As clan head, killing him is my responsibility. And there's no way I'm letting you go alone, Dope. Naruto hesitates. Torn. Whenever he's pictured himself facing Madara, which is more often than he would like, especially in his nightmares, he's always done it alone. That's risk enough, putting the most powerful of the Biju directly in Madara's path and at risk of being controlled. Besides, the others need to face pain to hold him off as long as possible. Naruto wouldn't dare call on them for help. But... Stop it, Naruto, Sasuke says, low and fierce, pulling Naruto fully around and not allowing him to look away. We're doing this together. And Naruto smiles, because he's always thought of doing this alone, but he doesn't have to right now. Sasuke isn't one of the Biju, isn't at risk of having his free will stolen as easily as breathing. He isn't as powerful, maybe, but he's trained with Jiraiya, reached Danbu, survived 8 years as an active shinobi, and Naruto is willing to believe that here, at least, the benefits will outweigh the risks. Not that he'll actually get a choice in the matter, judging by the set of Sasuke's jaw. Alright, he says, letting out a long, slow breath. He's never believed that locking his precious people up in some glass tower is the best way to keep them safe. Better to fight side by side and protect them from up close, rather than shutting them away and earning their hatred. Alright, Sasuke, let's go.
He doesn't say thank you. Sasuke would probably hit him if he did, because it's not a situation where thanks are applicable or even remotely appropriate. This is Sasuke's village, his home, and he's simply defending it. It's just common sense. Sasuke kisses him for it anyway. Brief and hot, and overall too soon. Be careful, Tsunade says softly, her gaze flickering between the two of them, and Naruto grins at her. Not forced, not false, but real. Because for all the fear within him, for all the doubt that wants to eat at his heart, for all the screams he can hear, and all the darkness of pain's twisted conviction filling the air, they're not doomed. Not even close. 4 Jinchuriki, 4 Kage, a host of each village's strongest jonin. He likes those odds. Akatsuki is desperate to find the Biju to start their attempt at conquering the world, and 7 years with only rumors and brief glimpses to go by has pushed them to this, to a mere hope that Uzushio with its entirely hidden village holds the clues they need. A reckless, desperate enemy is one poised on the edge of defeat, and Naruto is more than ready to give Akatsuki that final push over the precipice. Always, Bachan, he says brightly, stepping forward to wrap his arms around her in a tight hug that she returns with equal fervor. Kick their butts, okay? She flicks him gently in the forehead, just enough to make him stagger, and then leans forward to press a quick kiss to the same spot. Of course, brat, she murmurs, and then turns her smile on Sasuke. Come back in one piece, both of you. Heaven knows I've already patched you up enough for one lifetime, Uchiha. Sasuke rolls his eyes faintly, but steps back and bows. Yes, Hokage-sama. Come on, though, let's go. Naruto doesn't look back as he follows Sasuke up onto the rooftops and to the east. He wouldn't, even if he could, but regardless, there isn't time. Already there are more explosions, more screams. The smell of fire sears the air, ash and scorched wood and hot stone, and Naruto redoubles his pace, Sasuke right in step with him. Plan? He calls, and Naruto grimaces. Hit him hard and don't die, he suggests, and rolls his eyes at the withering look that earns him. Teme, it's Madara, or at least someone pretending to be him. And Zetsu is hardly an easy opponent either. Do you have a better idea? Pretending? Sasuke demands, sounding outraged, even as they flash past a hurdle of jonin surrounding a medic team and leap over the battled wall. Even as they flash past a huddle of jonin surrounding a medic team and leap over the battered wall. Though why would anyone pretend to be a dead, universally hated missing nin? As they drop lightly to the ground, Naruto shrugs, setting Saji to rest over his shoulder with careless ease. Don't ask me, he says with a huff, and jerks his head at the pair of shinobi in front of them. They might know, though. The masked man turns away from the battered Anbu in front of him, smoothly shifting his attention to Naruto as the shinobi drops, unconscious or dead. Ah, he says after a moment. Though if he's startled, it doesn't show. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki. I was wondering when you would crawl out of hiding. Sasuke growls low in his throat, chakra rising around him. It fills the air with a smell of oz, sharp and metallic in the back of Naruto's throat. He tenses as well, ready to move, and lets Saji fall to rest in both hands. A sweep of his thumb over the largest seal activates it, sending blue and red chakra spiraling down the shaft as the seals come to life. Within him, Kurama rises as well, adding his chakra to Naruto's without being asked, and baring his sharp teeth in a bone-rattling snarl. Sorry, Naruto tells Madara, or the man playing at being Madara, cheerfully, though he keeps a wary eye on Zetsu as well. I was a little busy rebuilding my village. I guess I forgot you were looking for me. At that moment, chakra flares at 3 other points in Konoha, familiar and welcome, as the other Jinchuriki activate their version 2 forms, cloaking themselves in the Biju's power. Madara's chakra flickers with angry surprise, just the barrage edge of killing intent leaking out, but it's enough to make Naruto grin with barely contained triumph. The missing nin had no idea that the Jinchuriki would be here. This was obviously a long shot, a blow struck against Konoha in the hopes of drawing the Jinchuriki out and getting information, but Madara didn't expect them to already be present, especially not in the current numbers. Madara says, drawing himself up as chakra flares, and Naruto tightens his grip on his Naginata. Such hope you have of winning, Uzumaki Naruto. But there is no such thing as a victory in this world. Hope is merely an illusion. I know about your plan, Madara, Naruto counters. A false world?
Will hope be real there? Will it mean anything at all when all of reality is an illusion? This world right now is painful, but it's real. It has meaning, and I won't let you take that away. I won't let this world end. You have my word, and that's one thing I'll never go back on. Zetsu scoffs, but before he can even make a move, Sasuke lunges forward, the cries of 1,000 birds echoing through the forest, and slams into the man, the momentum hurling them back into the woods and out of sight. Madara turns his head to watch them disappear, but doesn't otherwise move. You would condemn your friends to an existence filled with pain, he asks, to a life of struggle where they'll never fulfill their dreams. Surely you aren't that cruel, Naruto. But it doesn't matter. I'll end this world and lead you to a new one. He vanishes with a warping spiral of force, disappears completely from Naruto's senses, and Naruto, he can't breathe, can barely move to spin and dodge the dozens of kunai hurled at him with an inhuman amount of force because he knows that move. He's faced it before. Kamui, he thinks, wild with sudden understanding, with realization and hope and aching, ironic comprehension. They've been sparring, Kagami and him, back when Uzushio still stood untouched, back when Naruto was newly appointed Saitama Uzukage. As ever, they went all out, full force brought to bear against each other because they were both geniuses in their right, sons of some of the most powerful bloodlines their villages could boast. And they never even attempted to hold back when they sparred. There had been a moment of inattention on Naruto's part, though, a shout from the wall that pulled his gaze away for a split second, too long to be able to dodge, but not long enough for Kagami to be able to stop. He'd gotten a katana through the chest, had staggered back, blood already bubbling from his lips as Kagami stared at him in horror, eyes shifting and settling into sharp-edged pinwheels, spinning lazily, the power in them fierce and overwhelming. Naruto had survived, of course. Uzumaki vitality was never something to be underestimated. But Kagami had thought for a very long, fraught hour that he had killed his best friend, and he had the Megenkyo to show for it. It was that Megenkyo in particular that made his family line so valued, even among the rest of the Uchiha clan. What made them marry him to Hisae? What made his father push him so often, so overbearing, that Kagami had gladly left Konoha behind to take up position as ambassador to Uzushio, far away from any relatives. It was an ability last seen in the warring clans era, and only ever in one particular branch of the clan, but the renown of it had carried over down the generations, despite the fact that after his great-great-grandfather, only Kagami ever manifested it. My bloodline? You mean what those old wrinkled jerks can't understand? We'll never understand. It's not like there's more than an infinitesimal chance of me passing it on, even if I do what they want and reproduce for the good of the clan. But apparently he did pass it on. Even mixed with Senju blood, it appeared in his son, who is not years dead as Naruto thought, but living, alive, here. Obito, he says, and the name of Kagami's son echoes in the sudden silence around them. Naruto meets the startled gaze just visible through the eye hole of the mask, the familiar elongated triangles twisted into a pinwheel, and can't tell if he's overjoyed or horrified. You're not Madara. You're Obito. Look, Teme, I'm just as delighted as the next guy that you're feeling inspired, but is this really the time to indulge in some sand art? Orochimaru rolls his eyes, as is likely to be expected, and scratches in the last few sweeping lines of the seal he's drawing. It's large and complex, and Jiraiya is kind of getting hives just looking at it. It's so creepy. They seem to have gotten to the exciting part without waiting for us to arrive, the snake sage says archly, dusting off his hands and drawing another scroll from his weapons pouch. I'm simply evening the odds a little. Surely your honor has no problem with that, Jiraiya. Jiraiya eyes the bound forms of the 5 strange green clones struggling in the middle of the seal, and then looks at his former teammate with a skeptical expression. Orochimaru waves him off with a huff. They're hardly even clones, Jiraiya. They are artificial humans made from Hashirama's DNA and the demonic statue of the Outer Paths, and cultivated to serve as Akatsuki's ground troops. This would be why Madara, Konan, and Pain ran when we faced them. They were preparing for an invasion and didn't want us to delay it. That is something of a relief, though Jiraiya still doesn't let himself relax fully. And this is, he asks pointedly, waving a hand at the seal. Ero Tensei, Orochimaru says almost reverently, drawing 5 files from a pocket and unfurling the scroll. The greatest cheat of death that exists. Resurrection with all powers, abilities, personality, and memories intact. Using living bodies as a host. The summoned soul is called back to earth and reformed in the body it wore during life, with the ability to regenerate endlessly and no mortal weaknesses. Perfection found in the escape from death's grasp. If Jiraiya didn't know better, he'd say Orochimaru was talking about some kind of religious experience. Or possibly really good sex. You, Jiraiya informs him dryly, are exceedingly creepy. That gets him a glare and an affronted hiss, and Orochimaru rises smoothly to his feet, tossing his long black hair over his shoulder. Some of it smacks Jiraiya square in the face, but after so many years, enduring Orochimaru's little tantrums as a child, Jiraiya just rolls his eyes and takes a step to the side. His gaze is drawn back to the seal as Orochimaru activates the scroll, and the clones begin to scream. "Who are you calling back?" he asks, crossing his arms over his chest and attempting to ignore the noise. "Will they help us?" Orochimaru flicks him a short, withering glare before returning his attention to the seal just as the clones' bodies are obscured by ash and dust. "Use what brain you have left, Jiraiya," he scoffs, but it's not necessary. Jiraiya can see the bodies forming, the familiar spiky blonde hair, the helmeted head, the Happuri face guard bearing Konoha's mark, the red headband, and long dark hair. His breath catches in his throat, and he's stunned to silence before 4 of the greatest shinobi ever to call Konoha home. All of the previous Kage stare back at him, obviously just as surprised at being called as he is to see them, and the silence stretches out between them. "What?" an unfamiliar voice demands, and Jiraiya blinks, gaze drawn to the 5th shinobi in the line. He blinks again. Because it's not a Kage, not even anyone he's familiar with. An Uchiha by the coloring, but stockier than most, short and muscular rather than tall and lean, with chin-length dark hair cut at a slant. He's middle-aged, not quite old, but not young either, dressed in fine robes with the Konoha Hitayate looped loosely around his waist. The stranger shakes himself and takes a half-step forward, surveying the 4 Hokage with sharp eyes that catch and hold on Sarutobi. "Is that Hiruzen?" he asks incredulously. Sarutobi stares back at him, blankly startled, and then takes 1 step forward. "Kagami?" he returns, something like grief crossing his face. You look..." He trails off, clearly unsure how to finish that statement. Orochimaru snorts, pulling 6 pairs of eyes to him in an instant. "Welcome back," he says sardonically. "I see freeing my arms from the Shinigami's stomach had the happy side effect of freeing you as well. As I hoped." Tobirama narrows his eyes, glancing down to study the seal at their feet. "Ero Tensei," he affirms, looking pleased. Jiraiya would have honestly expected him to be mad after being pulled from his eternal rest. "You have perfected it. My compliments." That earns him an actual delighted smile, the likes of which Jiraiya hasn't seen from Orochimaru since they were first learning ninjutsu. "Thank you, Nindame-sama," Orochimaru replies, astonishingly polite. "It is my honor to use such an innovative jutsu, but we have little time. Konoha is under attack and in need of aid. Will you help?" "You are helping Konoha." Sarutobi crosses his arms over his chest, clearly suspicious. His gaze darts from Orochimaru to Jiraiya, standing unharmed and unmoving, and then back to the snake sandin. "Even after..." "Yes, Sensei." Jiraiya jumps in, tearing his gaze away from his former student before Orochimaru could say anything. Tact isn't really his strong point. "I'll vouch for him, but we need to move. Akatsuki is already in the village." Orochimaru snorts softly. "And if you won't take Jiraiya's word, ask your esteemed teacher just how simple it would be to strip you of your will and leave you a mindless puppet," he says sharply, already turning away. "And then note how I have refrained from doing so, no matter how straightforward it would make all of this." Jiraiya sighs aggrievedly, following his teammate over to where Itachi lies, still immobile. "Orochi Teme," he complains, "I know you've got more lives than a zombie cat, but how about we don't go aggravating the incredibly powerful Kage?" especially since 2 of them are gods of shinobi, and the other 2 might as well be. Oh, and you managed to infuriate at least 2 of them when they were alive. Orochimaru pointedly ignores him, and Jiraiya throws up his hands in exasperation, wondering why he even bothers. There's a muttered curse from the far end of the line. And what am I? Kagami demands testily. Chopped liver. No, Uchiha-san, Hashirama says cheerfully. If you were summoned with the rest of us, I'm sure you're quite powerful as well. When Jiraiya glances back, he can see that Kagami isn't paying the least bit of attention to the Shodame. Instead, his eyes are fixed on the cloud-swathed sky, lips parted as though he's come to a sudden and welcome realization. With a grin spreading across his features, he drops his gaze, meeting Sarutobi's eyes squarely. Arashi, he says in stunned, overjoyed disbelief. Sarutobi is smiling too, almost grinning, and he turns to look west, where chakra is flaring, sharp-edged and as strong as a storm wind. It is indeed, he agrees. Orochimaru, you resurrected the storm god to fight with us? Orochimaru steps back, letting Itachi sit up unsteadily, and his lips curve into a secretive smile. Well, something like that, he murmurs, and then crosses his arms to study the younger Uchiha closely. Get up, he offers. If Uzushio is here, then Danzo has been dealt with, and I have no doubt Naruto has papered the village with proof of his crimes. If, as I suspect, he was the catalyst behind the massacre, you are likely no longer a missing nin. And even if you are still wanted, it is probably for nothing more than questioning. Given such circumstances, what will you do now, Uchiha? Itachi is frozen, stiff and still, and says nothing. Orochimaru nods as though it's an answer and turns away, meeting Jiraiya's startled gaze with a sly smile and an expectantly raised brow. Naruto! Jiraiya demanded. The name echoed half a heartbeat afterward by the stunned Yoname. Orochimaru chuckles even as he heads into the trees. Shall we find Tsunade, Jiraiya? He suggests, ignoring his teammate's dangerous glare. I find I'm feeling rather nostalgic today. About to demand answers, Jiraiya pauses, and then slowly shuts his mouth. He finds himself picturing it almost against his will. Tsunade on one side of him, Orochimaru on the other, fighting shoulder to shoulder once again in order to protect Konoha. The image is timeless, in a way. They've done it so many times before, and even though Jiraiya had thought such things lost with Orochimaru's betrayal, but apparently not. Apparently, all that was necessary to bring it back was the return of Uzushio's storm god and his fierce conviction, coupled with a large enough threat. Even with the danger to Konoha and his people, Jiraiya can't quite bring himself to regret these circumstances. Not really. With a grin, he jogs after Orochimaru and slings an arm around him. Sure, he says, squeezing the thin shoulders fondly. Let's go kick their butts. They got away once, and that's one time too many! If you shout in my ear again, you brainless fool, I'll bury you alive as worm food. Sorry. Oh, hey, I bet I could take out more than you. The usual odds, I assume? A week of servitude? Ah, you bet your pasty butt those are still the odds. Very well. Prepare yourself, Jiraiya. This will be over with humiliating speed. For you, of course. Shut up, Teme. When I win, you'll be the humiliated one. I promise you that. Sarutobi watches them go, then presses a hand over his eyes, muttering resignedly to himself. Toriyama catches the phrase, maid costume, and raises a disbelieving brow as his brother laughs delightedly, slapping Kagami on the shoulder before he takes off for Konoha at a bounding run. Naruto? Minato repeats plaintively, even as the others follow after the Shodame.